Today we're going to be talking about rent payment problems explained, late rent, due dates and what you can do. Welcome to the All Things Property podcast with me, Simon Bacon of Preferential Properties. Every week, Ian Sadler and I will delve into all things property. We'll guide you through with friendly, no-nonsense advice. Welcome to the All Things Property podcast with me, Simon Bacon.
And me, Ian Sadler.
So, now, late rent isn't usually a big dramatic moment. It starts small, a day here, a week there, and before you know it, it's a pattern. So let's talk rents, Ian. Setting the rent date, why it matters more than landlords think. Talk to me about setting rent dates.
Well, your initial rent date is stated in tenancy agreement. So if it's if you start your tenancy on the 2nd and you pay your first month's rent in advance, then it's due on the 2nd of the following month and monthly thereafter. On occasion, tenants request a change of payment date, which is understandable. For example, if you start your tenancy on the 15th, a lot of people don't get paid until the last day of the month or the first day of the month. So to change that date is feasible, not advisable, but feasible, just by charging perhaps the rent from the 15th to the end of the month, and then monthly by standing order on the 1st of each month thereafter. What I would suggest is that you get this put in writing, so that you've got a record of it.
Yeah, it has to be formalised. But why would you agree to that? Does the landlord have to agree to that?
Under the terms of tenancy, no. But I think it's kind of live and let live and try and solve a problem. Really, if it's causing genuine hardship, then you should look at trying to do it.
Wouldn't the time to be doing that to say at the beginning of a tenancy?
Yeah.
Why
Well, people have been known to change jobs
15th?
mid-tenancy, haven't they?
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
happens.
Yeah.
I think you deal with the situation as it arises. Each case is different.
I think one of the issues though is that a lot of what I've heard is that landlords will often charge 6 weeks rent for. So you pay your rent on the 15th normally, and a tenant says, "Oh, can I change my pay date to the 1st of the month?" Then often the landlords will make them pay the 2 weeks up to the 1st of the month, and then
I'm not sure you can do that, Simon.
you can't. You're right, you can't. The other thing is, if they change their pay date, does that change the
anniversary date of tenancy? No, that's stuck fast in law. From a possession perspective.
Yeah, and again, I've had instances where tenants have changed their pay date and then assumed that because their pay date has changed, that actually that's changed their notice date, so that when they give notice, I pay my rent on that day. So
it's a clear area, but people's understanding of notice dates and notice needed is it's a lot clearer with the Renters' Rights Act now. But so just devil's advocate here. So you've got a tenant and his rent is due on the 15th of every month, and it regularly comes on the 16th or 17th of every month. What would you do about that?
I think the first thing I would do is write to them or give them a call to say, look, your rent is due on the 15th. We always encourage tenants to set standing orders up so they can forget about it. I know they don't. I know that lots of tenants don't do that, but that's what, again, the tenancy agreement does stipulate. So going back to your question, if they start paying their rent a couple of days beyond the date it's due, you've got to have that phone call with them. You've got to have that contact with them and say, why is your rent not being paid on the 15th? You have to do that. Otherwise,
no, I get that, but then when you have that conversation with them, you take a view. Is it genuine? It's been paid regularly for 12 months now, 2 days after the due date.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get snippy about that, would you? You wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't get snippy about it at all. What does snippy mean, by the way?
Well, you should know that one.
Really? I don't think so. So anyway, so no, if they're consistent with. So what's the difference then between consistently late and, so you'd say...
I think if it was consistently late 1 or 2 days and I had had that conversation with the tenant and I was happy that it was genuine, then I would let it, have it on file and have the conversation noted, but I wouldn't take any action. if it's Lawyer's gut instinct. If you've got a tenant who's paying late and it's varied from 1 week to 4 days to 7 days to 10 days, and something tells you it could lead to bigger problems, then I think you need to do things strictly by the book.
Yeah, I would say under Section 8 persistent late payment, where the date changes, if someone's due date is the 15th, they always pay it on the 17th, then I think, like you, I would probably go, well, it's consistent. I might say to them, look, is there a reason why you're paying it on the 17th, not the 15th? And they may just go, oh, well, sorry, that's how I set it up. But if someone is paying on the 18th 1 month and the 16th the next and the 20th month after, you do have to, nip that in the bud. And I would always say it's that first missed payment, the first payment that is not
prompts
normal,
a discussion.
Needs to, prompt the discussion. Early action, communication are absolutely essential. So what's the difference then between communication and escalation?
Well, the process starts with the communication process starts with a phone call, possibly followed up by an email. And then based on the reaction you get and the gut feeling you get for the situation, you can decide whether to escalate it, whether you ask the landlord what they want to do. I think keeping the landlord in the loop is important. Late payments by tenants can affect landlords' mortgage payments. So, once again, it is all about communication.
But it's also very much about documentation, isn't it? Is that you might
Paper trail.
notice, you might notice if you don't tackle it straight off, because there will be lots of landlords who go, well, it's fine. He pays his rent 3 or 4 days afterwards, and then maybe you're expecting it on the 4th day, and it comes in perhaps a couple of days after that. It's very easy to let things slide, and then you suddenly have a problem. So what would your advice be to any landlord who's got a tenant who perhaps their rent isn't paid on a certain day each month?
Stay on top of the situation.
Communicate with them.
Absolutely.
And document it. It's the documentation.
Paper trail is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the documentation that is the most important, and that really is a common theme of probably a whole host of podcasts that we have done or are going to do in the future, that without the right documentation and without keeping on top of things, you will get yourselves into difficulties. So arrears chasing, rent monitoring, all crucial parts of the actual tenancy process. So how do you deal with persistent late payers? So someone who consistently is not paying, what would you do about it?
It's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, you can only threaten so much, you can only escalate so much before you face the expensive prospect of legal proceedings, which you need to avoid at all costs.
But surely the introduction of Section 8 persistent late payment is a good thing, isn't it?
On paper, yes, but let's see how it works in practice. For example, your tenant is, throughout his tenancy, life of his tenancy is 5 days late every month, but pays the rent religiously. Section 8 for persistent late payment will never get approved by a judge on that basis.
No, I don't think it's meant to, but surely it is meant to, where the pattern of the late payment is not the same. So if they're always paying 5 days late, is that persistent
a week here, 2 weeks
non-payment? Someone who pays it 5 days late and then it stretches to 2 weeks late and then it's a week late, that is persistent late payment, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Isn't that what the Section 8 notice is meant to do?
Is that if it's paid regularly but intermittently, 7 days here, 10 days there, 4 days next month, is the landlord realistically want to serve a Section 8 notice?
What does that tell you though? It's like if you pay, I don't know if you have a mortgage, or a hire purchase agreement on a car or a PCP plan or your, electricity bill or your credit card statement. There's a date for paying that, isn't there? And you have to pay that. You can't go, I I think I'll pay my credit
It's not
card
the
in
same.
a week's time.
Paying a utility bill is not the same as having a tenancy.
What's
Somebody
the
has
difference then?
somebody has got possession of your property. They're living in your property,
Yeah.
and the rules and regulations around that, and the potential pitfalls that you can fall into.
What are you saying? That rent, as long as they pay
No,
their
I'm
utility
saying is
bills,
that
they don't have to pay their rent on time.
If you try running a rigid system then,
Mhm.
and see
Okay.
how that works out.
Well, I think, but isn't that what we're saying to landlords? Is that you have got to be a bit.
You've got to
more
interpret
rigid.
circumstances sometimes. Maybe you and I are different in that respect.
I don't think it's about you and I being different. I think from a landlord's perspective. So how would you then? You're a letting agent. How would
I
you
am.
deal with a landlord who says, my mortgage comes out on the 20th of each month, and if I haven't received my rent payment by then, I'm effectively having to cover that mortgage payment myself. The rent is due on the 10th, that's fine, plenty of scope there for the landlord to have their rent by the 20th. So you suddenly find that the rent's 5 days late, but have you monitored that and gone, oh, it's 5 days late, I'm going to give them a call, or they always pay it 5 days late,
No,
so I'm not going to chase them.
Don't be facetious.
I'm not, but what are you saying?
I'm saying is that you need to, your system and my system instantly says when a rent is due. You can check your rent arrears at any point by a click of a
Yeah.
button. So
Yeah.
you have a finger on the pulse all the time.
Mhm.
If somebody's a day late, I wouldn't call them on the same day, but if they were 2 days late, then I would say, everything okay, could you send rent over due on such and such a date?
Mm.
So you've got a written record of it.
But they always pay 5 days late. So you're not chasing them for those first 5 days. So that becomes 5 days grace where they haven't paid their rent, but they always pay it 5 days late. So you haven't tackled it. So already you're a week behind. And then, so you then check it maybe day 6. So at that point they're 6 days late. But in your eyes, or in the tenant's eyes, well, they're only a day late. At what point does it start to become, actually, no, this is a problem?
Experience, instinct. So you have to judge each situation on its merits, I think. You can deal with certain people, and they're good, honest people. You can deal with rogues, whether you're buying a car or renting them a property, and you will get a feeling for that person. If you've been in this business long enough, and so have I, to sense when there's a potential problem, and you would deal with it in a more severe sense if you felt that, if you had that feeling.
Okay, so how many times have you phoned, a tenant up and said, "Oh, I'm just ringing with regard to your rent. I've noticed that it's late. Could you please make a payment?" And they go, yeah, I'll do that. And then.
But if they said
they
it like
don't.
that, yeah, I'll do that, then I probably wouldn't believe them.
Okay.
If they came up with what I felt was a bona fide excuse or reason for it, then I'd let that one lie until the following month. But my antennae would be twitching for the following months to see what happened. So finger on the pulse.
Yeah, it's that balance, isn't it, between, again, if a tenant doesn't pay their rent, is it...
At what stage
What
do
are
you
your
escalate it to
expectations?
confrontation?
Well, what's confrontation?
Confrontation is landlord saying, "I've had enough, I want him out."
Yeah, but if you've got to that point, things really have failed. Surely, what you're trying to avoid confrontation. You're trying to make sure your communication is really spot on. But again, I would go back to, on occasions, the tenant that phones you and says, "I'm sorry, my rent's going to be late this month because something has happened." That's easier to deal with than a phone call to a tenant to say,
"Where's my rent?"
Where's my rent? "Oh yeah, I'm really sorry, but my car broke down, so I had to get that fixed because I need."
And Christmas is coming, so I needed to buy some presents.
Yes, yeah.
You cannot write a textbook for this.
No, I know. Well, that's why we're here, isn't it? To give landlords some guidance and maybe tenants some guidance as well, to say, look,
communication, guys. If
yes.
it's going to be late, tell us.
Yes, yeah. Because I always think if a tenant phones you to say, "Look, this has happened. My rent may be a few days late this month," that's a much more acceptable conversation to have with them, with us, and us with our landlords, isn't it? To say, oh, you know, the tenant's phone to say, it gives you a different feeling.
Well, it comes back to the biggest word in lettings or management of properties is communication. It applies to every aspect of it, and if you haven't got that, you're screwed.
Yeah. And what's your feedback, I suppose, or what experience have you got of landlords when you go to them about, you know, late payers, if you like?
My portfolio is different to yours, so very rarely they would say, "Oh, it's okay, just keep an eye on it." Your average landlord is going to have a far more strict view on the situation, and some more than others. And once again, it's each circumstance is different.
Yeah, but Section 8 is there, isn't it, to help?
Yeah, it is. So you serve a Section 8 as a means of getting possession of your property. You know the wait, if it's contested, the wait for a court case is what, 12 months now for possession?
Depending on where.
You've got the costs involved, which is going to be £5,000 minimum to instruct a solicitor. At what stage do you decide it's viable to go down that route rather than handle a situation and get to hopefully a satisfactory conclusion?
Yeah, but isn't that the conundrum for all landlords? At what point does, you know, a late payment become an issue?
When a landlord and his agent have a discussion about the whole situation and they make a joint decision and have a joint view on what they should do next, very, very few people are going to want to go down the route of possession through the courts, particularly now. It's horrendous. Okay.
So where does take that right back to basics then? Where does the referencing, where does choosing the tenant, the referencing process for the tenant sit within all of this, do you think?
It's the very bedrock of your admin needs. It's something that has to be done properly. You do not take shortcuts with references. If you're an agent, you leave yourself open to being sued by the landlord for professional negligence. You create more crap for yourself as an agent by shortcutting the system. It's rigid. You're the same as me. You do not take shortcuts. If somebody can't provide any specific information or fails a specific area, I'll pay 6 months up front. You just do not do it. You cannot take shortcuts there.
But I guess I know that'll lead into a completely different conversation, but you know, when you're looking at applications and you know you've got a single person on or someone on one income as against two people on two incomes, often that can be, you know, when a prospective, you know, when an applicant says to you, you know, how's the landlord going to decide? It's impossible to say, but there will be lots of landlords out there who would much prefer to have two paying tenants than one paying tenant, obviously.
By having one paying tenant, you mean one tenant on tenancy agreement, one tenant in the property?
Yeah. So,
well, how can
if you have what I'm saying is, if you've got a property available and you chose one person around it and it's for them on a single income, or you show a couple round who are on two incomes, do you not have landlords who say, well, actually I would prefer the couple because it mitigates me?
Well, firstly, I kind of, with my vast experience, I make all the decisions on, very rarely to get referred to landlord. But references are based on affordability. How can you discount somebody who's on 60, 70 grand and has got disposable income of £1,500 a month?
But you're making an assumption then, aren't you? What I'm saying is, if you had an applicant who was on 40 grand and that was well within the affordability criteria, or you had a couple who are on 80 grand, would your landlord not want you to go with the two-income household rather than the one-income household?
It's never been raised.
Has it not?
No.
Okay.
It's only in your head, this one, mate.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, so bringing it back to where we started, I think what we've tried to show is that actually most rent problems are preventable. You need to have clear expectations, and early action and good communication make all the difference. Again, if you have any issues or want to talk about anything to do with rent payments or rent arrears, how to action it, how to move it forward, then please do give us a call. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the All Things Property podcast. If you found this episode useful, don't forget to subscribe, like and share. These things really help us reach the people who need to hear this advice. See you next week.